Welcome to class. Today is a discussion on the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution serves as the cornerstone of American governance, laying down the fundamental legal framework for the nation's government. Crafted by the Founding Fathers and ratified on June 21, 1788, it officially came into effect on March 4, 1789. It begins with a concise yet powerful preamble outlining the overarching purposes of establishing justice, ensuring domestic tranquility, providing for the common defense, promoting general welfare, and securing the blessings of liberty. Following the preamble, the Constitution is organized into 7 articles that clearly delineate the structure and responsibilities of the federal government, describing the roles and powers of the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, and outlining how states interact with each other and with the federal government. Furthermore, the Constitution includes processes for its own amendment and ratification. Since its inception, the Constitution has been amended 27 times. These amendments reflect evolving societal values and address critical issues such as individual rights, governmental authority, and voting regulations, ensuring the document remains responsive to the changing needs of American society. Let's turn to the preamble. The Constitution opens with its celebrated and resonant preamble, a powerful declaration starting with the iconic words, "We the people of the United States." This phrase underscores the revolutionary concept that the authority of the government comes directly from the citizens themselves, not from monarchs or distant rulers, but from the collective will of the people. In crafting the preamble, the framers carefully articulated several foundational goals for the new government they envisioned. First, they sought to achieve unity among the states, transforming a loose collection of independent entities into a cohesive, resilient nation. Recognizing the weaknesses and divisions present under the earlier Articles of Confederation, this commitment to unity aimed to strengthen cooperation and solidarity across the states. Next, the framers emphasized the importance of justice and fairness, pledging that the newly established government would uphold the rule of law, ensure equitable treatment under the law, and protect the rights and freedoms of all its citizens. By explicitly addressing justice, the Constitution promised a government accountable to its people and their fundamental rights. Moreover, the framers committed themselves to domestic peace, an essential ingredient in maintaining stability within the nation's borders. They knew that peace at home was vital to ensuring citizens could pursue their lives, liberties, and happiness without the constant threat of internal turmoil or disorder. Another vital responsibility outlined in the preamble was providing for the common defense. Aware of external threats and geopolitical realities, the Constitution explicitly empowered the federal government to maintain armed forces capable of protecting the nation from foreign aggression and ensuring the sovereignty of the newly formed republic. In addition, the framers expressed a dedication to promoting the general welfare, a broad yet critical pledge, signaling that the government would play a proactive role in ensuring the well-being and prosperity of its citizens, laying the groundwork for a society where opportunities for health, safety, and success were broadly accessible. Finally, and perhaps most significantly, the framers vowed to safeguard liberty for present and future generations. By including the phrase, "to ourselves and our posterity," they articulated a forward-looking vision that sought to protect personal freedoms, ensuring that the ideals of liberty and self-determination would be preserved not just for those living at the time, but for all who would follow. In sum, the preamble serves as a profound statement of purpose, distilling the Constitution's essential principles and aspirations into a concise yet powerful opening. It remains a timeless reminder of the ideals upon which the United States was founded, and a lasting inspiration for generations of Americans committed to preserving and perfecting their union. Now let's turn our attention to the Bill of Rights. The Constitution of the United States is structured to clearly define the roles, responsibilities, and boundaries of the federal government. It is carefully organized into 7 articles, each addressing a different aspect of governmental structure and operation. Article 1 establishes the legislative branch, the cornerstone of representative democracy. This branch is composed of Congress, which is divided into 2 distinct bodies, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House represents the people directly, with representation based on population, such as California having many representatives due to its large population, while smaller states like Wyoming have fewer. The Senate, on the other hand, provides equal representation to each state, with 2 senators per state, ensuring balance between populous and less populous states. Congress is tasked with making federal laws, controlling government spending, and declaring war. Article 2 outlines the executive branch led by the President, who serves as both the head of state and government. The President is responsible for enforcing federal laws, conducting diplomacy with foreign nations, and serving as Commander-in-Chief of the armed forces. For instance, the President negotiates international treaties, appoints ambassadors, federal judges, and cabinet officials, subject to Senate confirmation, and can issue executive orders to guide federal agencies in enforcing laws, such as President Truman's order to integrate the armed forces. Article 3 defines the judicial branch, anchored by the Supreme Supreme Court, the highest court in the nation. The judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the Constitution and ensuring laws comply with constitutional principles. Landmark cases such as Brown versus Board of Education, which declared racial segregation in public schools unconstitutional, illustrate the judiciary's power to interpret laws and set legal precedents. Additionally, the article provides for the establishment of lower federal courts, including appellate and district courts, to handle cases involving federal laws and constitutional issues. Article 4 addresses the relationships among the states and between states and the federal government. It ensures cooperation and reciprocity by requiring states to honor each other's laws and court decisions through the full faith and credit clause. For example, marriages legally performed in one state must be recognized by all other states. Additionally, Article 4 guarantees states protection from invasion and internal disorder, reinforcing a unified national identity and security. Article 5 establishes a clear but intentionally challenging procedure for amending the Constitution, ensuring stability while allowing flexibility for necessary changes. An amendment can be proposed either by a two-thirds vote of both houses of Congress or by a national convention called by two-thirds of the state legislatures. Ratification then requires approval from three-fourths of the states. This high threshold ensures broad consensus, exemplified by the 19th Amendment, which extended voting rights to women and reflected a significant national agreement on an essential societal issue. Article 6 declares the supremacy of federal laws and treaties over state laws, known as the Supremacy Clause. This ensures uniformity and prevents conflicts where state laws might contradict federal law or treaties. For instance, federal civil rights laws override state laws that attempted to enforce segregation or discriminate against minorities, ensuring equal protection and rights nationwide. Finally, Article 7 specifies the procedure required for ratifying the Constitution itself. It required approval from 9 of the 13 original states to come into effect. This process was completed when New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify the Constitution on June 21, 1788, ushering in a new framework of government that endures to this day. Together, these 7 articles form a robust structure for a balanced federal government, defining clear roles, ensuring cooperation among states, and establishing mechanisms to adapt and respond to changing societal needs. Now, let's turn out final attention to the amendments themselves. The Constitution's amendments represent a dynamic history of the United States, reflecting evolving values, addressing injustices, and expanding democratic rights. The first 10 amendments, known as the Bill of Rights, were ratified in 1791 to ensure fundamental civil liberties. The First Amendment protects the freedoms essential to democracy: speech, religion, press, peaceful assembly, and the right to petition the government. It ensures that citizens can freely express their views without fear of government reprisal, worship as they choose, and advocate for change. The Second Amendment secures the right of citizens to keep and bear arms. Originally tied to maintaining a well-regulated militia, this amendment remains central in debates about gun control and individual rights. The Third Amendment prohibits the forced quartering of soldiers in private homes during peacetime, reflecting colonial experiences under British rule when citizens had troops quartered involuntarily in their homes. The Fourth Amendment safeguards citizens against unreasonable searches and seizures by the government, requiring law enforcement to obtain warrants based on probable cause before entering private property or seizing personal belongings. The Fifth Amendment establishes key rights in criminal proceedings, such as protection against double jeopardy, being tried twice for the same crime, protection from self-incrimination, the right to remain silent, and a guarantee of due process before the government can deprive someone of life, liberty, or property. The Sixth Amendment guarantees a fair trial in criminal cases, ensuring defendants the right to a speedy, public trial by an impartial jury, the ability to confront witnesses against them, and the assistance of legal counsel. The Seventh Amendment extends the right to a jury trial to civil cases, allowing disputes involving property or money to be decided by a jury of peers rather than solely by judges. The Eighth Amendment prohibits excessive bail or fines and cruel and unusual punishments, placing humane limits on the criminal justice system. The Ninth Amendment clarifies that the rights explicitly listed in the Constitution are not exhaustive. People retain other fundamental rights even if they're not enumerated. The 10th Amendment underscores federalism by reserving any powers not explicitly delegated to the federal government to the states or directly to the people, ensuring a balance between national and state authority. Following the Bill of Rights, additional amendments have responded to changing societal needs and injustices. The 11th Amendment, 1795, restricted the federal court's jurisdiction in lawsuits filed against states by citizens of another state or country, affirming state sovereignty. The 12th Amendment, 1804, refined the presidential election process, establishing separate electoral votes for president and vice president to avoid electoral confusion. The 13th Amendment, 1865, abolished slavery throughout the United States, fundamentally transforming American society by legally ending centuries of enslavement. The 14th Amendment, 1868, defined citizenship broadly, guaranteeing equal protection and due process under the law for all Americans, laying essential groundwork for civil rights advancements. The 15th Amendment, 1870, ensured voting rights for men could not be denied based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude, representing a significant step toward racial equality. The 16th Amendment, 1913, allowed the federal government to collect income taxes, providing a stable financial foundation for government programs and services. The 17th Amendment, 1913, established the direct election of U.S. senators by voters rather than state legislatures, enhancing democratic representation. The 18th Amendment, 1919, prohibited the manufacture, sale, and transportation of alcohol, reflecting social reform movements advocating for temperance. The 19th Amendment, 1920, granted women the right to vote, marking a pivotal victory for the women's suffrage movement and a significant expansion of democratic participation. The 20th Amendment, 1933, clarified the timing of presidential and congressional terms and established rules for presidential succession, ensuring smoother governmental transitions. The 21st Amendment, 1933, repealed the 18th Amendment, ending prohibition due to its unpopularity, enforcement difficulties, and unintended consequences. The 22nd Amendment, 1951, limited the presidency to 2 elected terms, promoting regular transitions of power and preventing indefinite rule. The 23rd Amendment, 1961, granted residents of Washington, D.C. electoral votes in presidential elections, finally giving representation to citizens of the nation's capital. The 24th Amendment, 1964, prohibited poll taxes in federal elections, removing a barrier historically used to disenfranchise poorer and minority voters, particularly in southern states. The 25th Amendment, 1967, established detailed procedures for presidential succession and handling presidential disabilities, providing critical clarity during national emergencies. The 26th Amendment, 1971, lowered the voting age from 21 to 18, driven by the principle that individuals old enough to be drafted for military service should also have the right to vote. The 27th Amendment, 1992, originally proposed in 1789, prevents congressional pay changes from taking effect until after the next election cycle, encouraging accountability and preventing immediate self-enrichment by legislators. Together, these 27 amendments reflect America's ongoing journey to become a more inclusive, democratic, and just society, continuously adapting to meet the aspirations and protect the rights of its people.